Happy to welcome in our podcast, in our interview, Natcha Uthaug. Introduce yourself. What role do you take in the Nordic AI company, and what do you do there?
Okay, so I started in Nordic AI this year, and I started there as a board member, but then I moved into a senior AI engineer.
And what kind of work exactly are you responsible for?
And nowadays, I am responsible for consulting AI development and also looking for the opportunities and the architectural solutions that we think of implementing.
So, do you have a mostly technical role, or you mostly speak to people?
I have both. I'm coming from a technical background, but as a board member and a project manager, you still need to have a conversation with your clients and ensure that you are delivering the product that they want. So even though I'm coming from a technical perspective, I have to ensure that I'm giving the clients the product that they want.
Oh, I see. And you mentioned technical background. Could you tell about your education and what technologies did you study and how did you come to the AI world?
So my journey to the AI world was very unconventional and quite long. So I would start with Natcha as a child. I always wanted to do technology when I was a kid, and I always wanted to rip things apart and see what was on the inside. But then I was a very good girl, so I did ask what my parents was wishing in the beginning, and that was becoming a doctor. So I started originally in med school. I went to med school and I did until the last year. Then the last year, COVID came, and I decided to go back to Norway to work as a doctor there because, at that time you wanted to help the world and, save it. And then during COVID, I realized how much I actually love tech and how much I wanted to be in the tech sector and not in the healthcare sector. So what I did, I kind of looked at the world, and I think a lot of people kind of had a pause when COVID came and kind of like, what am I doing with my life? I could be gone tomorrow if I catch COVID. At least back in that time, we didn't know. So then I was really into tech, and a lot of my friends, I was talking a lot about tech with them. And at some point, they got so annoyed of me talking about tech with them, they told me, Natcha, why don't you go and talk to someone who cares about tech? And I was, back then in med school, I was kind of like, but where am I going to find these people? And then one of my colleagues, like, um, at the university. So then it dawned for me. I was like, oh, I have to study this. I am studying the total wrong thing. So then I kind of did a 180 degrees turnaround and I started computer science. And I have to be honest, I was so scared to tell my parents I stopped med school because I only had 1 year left. And they have been very supportive of my education. And I totally understand their disappointment when I quit and started computer science. But I have to tell you, I didn't dare to tell them I quit until I finished my first year in computer science because I was not sure if I actually wanted to pass. Like I was at that point, I've been stuck in biology and medical sphere for so long, and then starting computer science is something totally different. But then, as with a lot of other people, when you do something you really love, it's not hard to learn. So that's when I started computer science. And from there, I wanted to use my medical knowledge. I didn't want to lose that. So I wanted to go into AI and help using AI for, medical diagnostic and stuff like that. And then, my AI journey just went upward from there. So I've been working with AI since 2003. I've been creating my own AI, creating models, creating AI that helps doctors predict cancer, uh, visual recognitions, and now I am actively working in the oil industry of Norway. And then I'm using that knowledge to help our clients implement AI automation.
Oh, it's incredible. It's difficult to grasp your resilience and your that you had such a long path of studying medical science, and then 1 year left, and you switched like 180 degrees. So I think that that was very bold and courageous. And so, and you started already, you started implementing AI with medical science, and then you started doing with oil industry. So I think such a diversity of areas and industries. So I'm just curious because I read a lot of books about how about longevity and how AI could change the path of humanity, of lifespan of a human. What is your view of this? Did you find some real world situations where your knowledge of AI could change even now, without like long future, even now within these years, help somebody, or do you see some real world applications with not so much investigation in it?
Of course, yeah, I see a lot of them. But I think most of the use cases is kind of like we still need to kind of like come to the an idea that the AI can actually do these type of things, such as medical consultation, which is a very untraditional, psychological help, or even legal help. So there is a lot of these things that I don't want to say that we are kind of like exchanging people for AI. It's more about making people more effective with AI. And I know that a lot of people hate this wording, but I have to say, me personally have become so much more productive, not just because AI can help me do stuff, but AI can also help me answer my questions so quickly. I remember when I used Lexicon, oh my God, it took me 15 minutes to answer one question. I can get answered half of my life stories on 50 minutes with AI. And when I have to say, I'm very happy I learned coding before AI came or LLM came and they became a normal thing because that really forced me to learn coding really, really hard. But when I did that, it took me so long time. And then when ChatGPT came, within a month, I have captured so many coding concepts just because I could get a fast feedback.
Yeah, I see. You have experience in coding, but and you use LLM for your personal productivity. And what do you recommend for layermen, for general people? What is the path to productivity? Just use ChatGPT and ask questions, or do you recommend to study Python and go the hard way to create your own system, etc.? What is your recommendation?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the first part of the question. Can you please rephrase it again?
So, what do you recommend for a person, for a layman, for a usual person who wants to upgrade his productivity? To just use ChatGPT and ask questions, or do you have some to create his own system, or to start studying coding with Python or other programming languages, and do some fancy stuff?
This depends a lot what your goal is for using AI. If you use coding, for example, I would recommend, first of all, to learn a little bit about AI. If you are planning to use it for code, I assume that you have a little bit technical knowledge. So I will recommend you to first read a little bit about the different AIs because we are at the point we have so many AIs, but they are good in different things. So you have to kind of select which AI you want to use. And just because your boss tell you to use exactly that AI, just remember the technology is developing fast. So just because your boss told that was the best last month doesn't mean it's going to be the best next month. For the general people who wants to use AI, yes, ChatGPT is very good and does most of your tasks. But be very aware, and I have done this for my own study and for my own research. LLM is not good with dealing with numbers. So yes, you can ask it for a formula, but be very cautious about the calculations it's doing. So this, I will recommend you actually to do it by hand or do it in Excel or ask it to produce a code. But if you are not technical expert, then I recommend you just go with simple Excel. And another thing, just because you can use AI doesn't necessarily mean you should use it always.
And you spoke about ChatGPT and OpenAI. And what LLMs do you use yourself? Do you use all of them, like Anthropic Claude, Gemini, DeepSeek, and maybe more? There are more of them at the moment. Or do you prefer to stay within the leader of OpenAI?
It depends again which task I'm trying to solve. For general tasks, I gotta admit, I prefer to use Grok. And how I use it, it depends. If I want to search for information, Grok has a deep search functionality. And I'm gathering all the news data and all the news research, what is online. Then I am asking, okay, now you have found this information. Please answer my question based on the information you found. And if you do that way, it is really good. The reason why I prefer to use Grok over, for example, ChatGPT, I mean, like, I know ChatGPT has a good search web function, but the point is that with the Grok AI, the data it's trained on is based on human interaction, basically Twitter. And Twitter is all about pure human interaction. But if I want not research, but I want a text generation, then GPT is usually the best. But if I want to use something for code, then I use Gemini or Claude. So it depends.
Yeah, that is a profound and deep answer. Thank you, Natcha, for this answer. So, coming back to your professional life, blending such different roles with technical roles like project manager and AI engineer, a board member, quality assurer, talking to computers and talking to people. How do you juggle these roles, and how switch between them? Do you dedicate some days more to people and other days to computers and LLM?
Both yes and no. I have to admit, I started my human to human interaction in medical field, and I believe that's where I learned how to ask people the correct questions to figure out how can I help them. So the human interaction I learned there. And then when it comes to the technical knowledge, well, there is no other way to come around than to just spend a lot of hours with your computer. So I would say juggling between both of them is actually really hard, but I have to admit I have to spend some time. For example, this fall, I spent a lot of time just with the technical knowledge. But then now I have a period where I have to speak to a lot of clients, stuff like that. So I actually called up one of my friends and said, okay, I need some pitching training now because I've been so deep into my computer. So I need to refresh my knowledge to be able to be on top of my game. So yeah, I would say in the week, I spend most time talking with clients and figuring how I can help them. And then during the weekend, I sit down with my computer and actually solve the problems that the clients have.
Yeah, thank you. Concerning your actual day in the Nordic AI, how does your day look like? What is your schedule when you start to work, and do you have like special Pomodoro periods with half an hour, 1 hour of deep work, and then you have some time for reflecting, for making some notes and projecting next steps? Or do you prefer to go right in and go into the hurricane of storm of meetings and coding, and then again meetings, phone calls, and then you in 10 hours, and how many hours do you work? So what does your real day looks like? And maybe you can tell about the blend of rest and deep work.
Okay, so I think the easiest way to answer when I work is to switch opposite and say, when do I not work? And that is basically when I sleep. I try to juggle a little bit more free time because I would like to have a family. And if you're going to have a family, you need to take care of your relationships. So I would say to anyone who is working their ass off as a startup, yes, your startup is important, but your life passes by really fast. And if you want to take care of your family, remember to set some time off for them as well. When I come back to my daily, it's usually I wake up at 7, I check my emails, I check my schedule, and I'm a person that likes to plan far ahead. So usually when I wake up the day, I already have planned what I should have done the day before. in the evening. So when I wake up in the morning, that's usually just for confirming that I can continue my planned schedule. And then if there's something urgent come up, I obviously have to reschedule. Then I usually start my day with a few meetings, and that usually has to do with coordination. What should I do during the day? What was left from the day before? A lot of coordination. Then I usually sit down after lunch with some problems, with some work needs to be done. And then around 3 o'clock, I usually take a break because my head is so full. Then I go for a walk with my dog, or I do some training session, eat. And then in the evening, usually when people is finished work, because that's when I usually get peace, that's when I sit down and actually start computing things and try to solve the problems I wasn't able to solve during the day. Meaning I have two ways of working. It's the interaction with other humans where I air my thoughts and we have a conversation of how it's going to work forward. Then there are these really hard problems where I have to sit alone and I probably have to contemplate about it for a while. And those times are usually when the night is. That's when no one is disturbing me, no one is calling me, so that's when the time is. And then when I have really hard projects, that's when I usually have to tell my family and friends, okay, this weekend I am not available.
Yeah, thank you. The balance between work life and family life and taking care of your family members and your pet and your trainings is such an important thing. And what about the corporate culture of Nordic AI? As we talked to guys, and they explained the culture of human-centered and ethical approach to business and using AI accordingly. Can you, in your terms, how do you explain using human-centered approach and ethical approach in your professional life? I'm sure that you do it in your personal life, but also can you explain what does it mean in business terms, ethical and human-centered?
Ethical and human-centered, for me, believes that when I'm creating an AI, I am creating it because there is a human who has a need for it. And that need is only solved by AI. Yeah. But to be honest, for me, the ethical part is about ensuring that we make an AI that is complementing a human and the human needs and not replacing them.
Yeah, that's
And
important.
then there is another thing. I want to ensure that every human to AI interaction is informed, meaning that I will never create an AI that I will pretend to be a human and not inform the user, because AI do makes mistake. And if that person, let's for example, Companion, which is an AI app we have for mental health. I mean, we do vigorous testing, but you can never fully know. So that's why we always inform our user, this is an AI, and if you think that this is against your personal values, then do not follow up the advice from the AI. So we also want our users to not just fully trust it, but also think for themselves. Because we have come to the point where people have so much information that they trust the AI blindly. And that is coming back to the fact that I told you in the beginning. Just because your boss says something is correct today doesn't mean it has to be correct the next month.
Yeah, you mentioned boss, and then my next question is: in your culture, uh, does it mean that everybody has their own opinion? And is what about the roles about bosses and like employer and employee, the relationships? What do you think? And there are bosses, there are usual workers, and there is a AI in the mix. And what are the relationships in your company? Do you have what does meetings and difficult maybe discussions take part? And what is the culture? How to say? Um, how do you treat when unusual or tough questions come? And when people differ in opinion, the bosses has other opinion and employees another. So how do you come out of this? Do you use AI for this?
Actually, that was a good idea. We haven't tried to use AI for this. We haven't have to agree. Like we haven't had any big disagreement yet. But I have to tell you about the culture or the work culture. Like usually in a company, it's a lot from the top and downwards. But in Nordic AI, we believe that if we have a flat structure, meaning that everyone gonna get heard and everyone feel like they can contribute, then we believe that everyone will try their best to contribute the best. So we're trying to have a flat structure, but at some point, someone has to make a decision. And if there is an agreement, a disagreement, then one, we could do a voting, or we have to agree that the boss is the boss, and he is the one who decides. So it's more about you as an employee also have to respect the wishes of your boss, but your boss also have to respect you in turn.
Yeah, thank you, Natcha. And as an AI engineer, what are the most exciting technical innovations or technologies that are not yet but coming? And maybe you had just heard about some new AI model or new company that comes. What changes did you notice last weeks or months in this AI field?
To be honest, yes, the AI field is going so fast. So if something has stayed for a month, oh, that's a long time. So if we consider the last year, I think that's like this year, we have seen models that is become more powerful, meaning that they can take in a larger chunk of text and process it. Because before, our main problem is that the model was so small that they couldn't process enough text to give any value. But now we're getting to the point where they're actually able to process books at the time. And that's when the value is starting to get, because what AI is best in is helping us retrieve information. Another development I see, and I think that's good, is that it's coming up a lot of data centers. And I'm talking about data centers that is independent from the big five. Meta, all of this, which meaning that we see that the price of using an LLM is decreasing, which is good for the consumer. Also, the price of storing data and having data center decreases. But another thing, if there are more data centers and they are independent from each other, that increases the cybersecurity of the whole system as a whole, which I really like because I think most of the industry is really worried about the cybersecurity problems, and there is no one yet that has come up with a solution for it. So we all trying to come up with the best solution. So I expect a lot of progression in the cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's a very smart notice about cybersecurity, about the influence of Big Five on the understanding of security of information, of safeness uh, of the information that you share with the world, that you share with AI models, with LLMs, and all this stuff is more and more important in the face of the conflicts that are now extending in the world as well, because different countries take have their interests.
But also, just another thing I want to point out, because we're living in Europe and GDPR is an important thing. So this is what I like with it comes more data center locally. Because of GDPR, it's easier for me to pay actually a good price, but also uphold GDPR. But also from the perspective of the users, that they know that the data has not been moved to somewhere else. So if I say, for example, that I am using a provider called Nebu that is producing semiconductors in Holland, if we are using them, then we know that nothing would leave this continent.
Yeah. So there are several limitations, including GDPR. And what my next question is: how Europe working with doing your business as an AI automation agency in Europe differs from all the world, from America, for example, and also how different is Norway from Europe?
Wow. Okay, let's start with Europe versus the rest of the world. Um, we all agree that Europe has very strict regulations. So I would say if you can make it in Europe, you can make it anywhere else because you don't have any more strict regulations. On the other hand, Yes, it kind of protects the startup industry a little bit in Europe because that means that if you find a solution in US, doesn't mean that solution is going to be accepted in Europe. So that means maybe, okay, someone from Europe actually have to fix and solve that. Another thing I like with working in Europe, and that is a lot of talents are being educated in Europe. And now, when the situation is like that around in the US, I see more and more talents are coming to Europe. And also, the EU has put a lot of money that they want to use specifically for AI development. So, actually, you see a decrease in the hiring all over the world, except Holland. Holland has increased its hiring when it comes to IT sector. So, this I believe is good. When it comes to Norway and working with EU, it's another thing again, because Norway is not a part of EU, but it's part of the economical zone. So we have some other rules, again, we have to apply to in Norway, but we have a lot of knowledge in Norway when it comes to driving the project. How do we solve? But the problem in Norway, we don't usually have enough people. So we really would like more AI developers come to Norway.
Oh, that's fantastic. Maybe some of them will come from Ukraine too.
We already have I already working with some of them, and actually I have to brag about Ukraine. Like I told Stefan, like, oh, you have some AI developers in Ukraine. Please get them. They are the best you can get in this continent. Please get them.
Yeah, that's good to know and to hear from you and referring to Stefan as well. What do you think about the? You mentioned about the big five, about Meta, about Amazon, Google. So, what about Microsoft? What about the roles of smaller nations and smaller boutique AI agencies with several people, with teams of 5 or 10 or 20 people in the future of the world? How the smaller agencies like yours will make an impact to the whole landscape of AI solutions and the future and informational future of the world?
I have worked with Microsoft for 2 years now, and they are a huge company. Yes, they have a lot of infrastructure, they have a lot of good senior employees, but they are very slow. So if you want something done there, it's going to take time. So this is where I see the smaller companies are coming in. So they are more flexible. It's easier turnaround. I would actually recommend if you want a new product, a product that do not exist, I recommend going to a smaller company. But if you want a product that has been existing for the last 10 years, yes, then you go to the big five. But if you want something custom made for you and you want it fast, take a smaller company. And I say this by experience. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Natcha. And could you, coming back to your professional life and your ambitions, maybe could you project how do you see yourself professionally within 5 years?
Within 5 years. Yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of been my ride until here. It's kind of happened faster and smoother than expected. So I'm kind of already where I expected to be in 5 years. So I didn't really think that far. But if I really have to say something, I hope I have grown Nordic AI to a large company, that we have a larger impact. And I'm hoping we are getting to the point where actually Nordic AI can kind of starting a little bit dictating the rules in the AI industry. Because who is the one who is dictating the rules? It's the big five. But if it's always the big companies that dictating the rules, then they will always win. So that's why I'm hoping we can build Nordic AI so we can also start dictating the rules a little bit. So we can start having some unicorns in Europe.
Yeah, unicorns is a good word. I have heard. I didn't hear about unicorn type of business even a year ago, but for last year I heard it several times. Unicorn business like a unicorn. So that's good point. And could you tell me just what, apart from your technical and professional life, what kind of activities do you like traveling maybe, or do you have engaged in some sports? What else ignites you, or just you just spend your time with your family?
I do like to hike in the mountains. We are lucky in Norway, we have very beautiful mountains there. When I was younger, I used to be a professional sailor. So,
Singer?
no, sailor.
Sailor. Okay.
So I wanted to go to the Olympics in 2012 in London, but then I started med school instead, as the good girl I was. But I would love to actually sail a little bit more. But then I'm also really into personal development. So that's where, for example, this app again, Companion, which I'm really burning for, because I'm going to tell a little bit personal story for myself. Back in the days when I was in med school, I was still fighting with myself. I had to go to med school, but I still want to do something else. And I didn't have anyone to speak to at that point because what my issue was, it wasn't a psychological problem because I knew what my problem was, but I just needed someone to speak to. At that point, I didn't have anyone to speak to. Giving this to other people will be a great thing through this companion.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point that you want to share. And about personal development, maybe could you recommend 2 or 3 books for me and for our whoever views this interview?
Oh, I read a really good book. It was from Carl Jung, which is called The Shadowland or The Shadow Landscape, which tells you more about this suppressed personalities that you have that usually comes forward when you're stressed or you're tired. And I'm a person who likes stability. So I try to be a person that people can depend on and not be up and down. And if I want to be a stable person, I also need to deal with my shadows. Another thing, this is not necessarily a book, but it's about if you want to become better in understanding people, but also communicate with them. And that's learning something about Jung type indexing. This is about personality types, a little bit similar to Big Five or MBTI, but this goes more on how do I process information? How do I take in energy? How do I make my decisions? And how do I like to work? And after I studied more about this Jung type indexing, I was much better in communicating with people and also much better in dealing with disagreements. Because disagreements, at least at the workplace, usually comes from misunderstanding. There is rarely two people that have two very different goals in the workplace. So after I figured this out, you are being upset because your trail of thoughts and your goals are this and mine are this. So yeah, if you want a peaceful work life, I really recommend you reading up on Jung type indexing.
Yeah, thank you. That's important. That very interesting advice. And what just give another maybe one advice, maybe 1 or 2 advices to someone who has finished formal education like school, and like you change the roles, you have some such vast vast area and horizons of interests. And for someone who has just finished school and he or she sees such a lot of opportunities, AI world, technology, and some maybe sales. So, but general advice, can you give someone, according to your experience to this point, advice to someone who has just finished school? What he or she should strive for, or some mental attitude, or whatever?
Okay, there are several things, but one of the things I'm always saying is that first of all, use your energy on something that you can do something with. Don't waste your energy on what everyone else is doing. That's the first thing. Concentrate on yourself. And then the second thing, don't wait for people to give you the opportunity. Take the opportunity and make it yourself. And this comes and applies to any job because I've seen it a lot when I'm trying to hire people. Is that I'm looking for someone with a specific experience. I don't expect you to be like speciality, but I expect you to have walked the miles yourself to at least try to dip your feet into that experience. So when you come and say, talk to me, oh, I have a little experience. And if I see that you have tried to obtain that experience yourself, then you're a really good candidate for any job. So, and a good example for this is if you want to be a leader and you want to lead someone, don't wait for a job opportunity. An example I did, I saw there was some hackathon. I asked some of my classmates, hey, I want to train being a leader. Do you want to be a part of my hackathon team? And then we do this together. I will train you. I will lead you. I will be responsible for any fall we're doing. If you can do those things, then you're good.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice, and I would take all of it. My situation, and as a person who hired like dozens and dozens of people, and I took hundreds of interviews with people. So I appreciate your advice. The idea was just don't choose just any books because you're bored. Just choose the book wisely, and then do something.
But also choose a book that you actually want to read. Because if you don't want to read it, it's going to take forever. And it's better to finish a book that you want to read that maybe didn't have all the content that the other book had. At
Yeah,
least you
absolutely.
read through that content.
Yeah, another idea just is you when you started reading a book, but you understand that it's a wrong book and you don't get anything and it's boring. Just don't commit to finish it. It's better to leave it alone and just don't put any more time on it. That's
Exactly.
yeah. Thank you, Natcha. And my last question is about why should people come to your company and start working with you personally and with your team, with Nordic AI? What differentiates you, and why should I come to you?
First of all, your opinion matters. You will be heard. That is first of all. Second of all, we do understand that yes, we have to work, but we also understand that you have another life. And then we also want you to enjoy your workplace. So if there are something that we can do to make your day better that also aligns with our goal in Nordic AI, then we will strive hard to help you achieve that goal. And then also, depending on what you want to do in your life, yes, we want to go that way. Maybe you want to go that way together with us. You want to be a leader? Okay, we will make you a leader on the way.
Yeah, thank you. Great points as usual. Natcha, like final couple words, like wishes to the readers, to the listeners, to our audience. What you wish to them?
What I wish for them. Well, I wish them happiness and success, but I want to wish something that I think not many people wish for other people, and that is, I hope that you can have good relationship with anyone that you want to have a relationship with in your life, even if it's your father, even if your neighbor or your partner. Another thing is that just remember, relationship takes work, but it's usually worth working for them.
Thank you, Natcha. Thank you for the interview. Thank you for your time, for your energy, for your attitude, for a good attitude, for your thoughts, for your wisdom, and for your personality. Happy to have met you and that we did this interview. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the good question.